Alrighty, hope you got your popcorn ready. Get my camera situated here. Today I'm going to attempt to put something into words that has been on my mind ever since I was a little kid, and I haven't been able to quite figure it out until here very recently, and I still don't have it all the way figured out. So it's something I've been wanting to get off my chest for quite some time. And if anybody has some input or some advice or maybe a different opinion on it, I'd be glad to hear what you have to say about it. So, ever since I was a little kid, I have had a difficult time relating to what most people refer to as deja vu. I don't remember exactly when I was first explained the definition of deja vu, but I do remember as a kid when I very first kind of got the idea, like, okay, deja vu is that feeling that you've been here before, but you can't quite explain why. Well, for me, there was a little bit something extra added into it that I still can't quite put a finger on. And it's still like this to this day. So for me, when I experience deja vu, yes, it's like, okay, I've been here before. I've been right here before, but it wasn't quite like this. You people weren't here. These people were here. And they were having a conversation about something very specific. I can't pull it off the top of my head, but I'll hear a very specific conversation. And I'll be struck with a memory of something that it was just happening a few minutes before that led up to this conversation. And I actually wasn't even sitting right here. I was over there. And my perspective will kind of lean its way over to that side of the room. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like I'm literally watching an alternate timeline lay itself out in front of this one. And it's almost so vivid that I can point to it. Like my mind's eye can see it so vividly that I can almost point and touch it. Now, I'm not 100% sure what that is, but from the research that I've done, I have brought myself up to this point. Every single time you make a decision, it doesn't matter what the decision is. It could be a big decision like, oh, I'm going to decide to get married or not to get married, or it can be something little like, I think I'll order pepperoni pizza today instead of mushroom pizza, or I'm going to decide to get up off the couch right now, or maybe I'll wait 5 minutes, to go make a sandwich because I'm hungry. Any decision that you make, you put energy into that decision. But the decision you don't make splits off and forms its own reality. So there are millions and billions and trillions of other yous off living other realities, because the you that is the here and now is focused on carving out one specific path in this life. Now, I've been hearing an awful lot about the Mandela effect, and I've looked into it quite a bit, and I do have to say it is some very entertaining mind candy. Because, yes, I absolutely remember the Berenstain Bears, not the Berenstain Bears. You know what I'm saying? If that whole part of the Mandela effect, the Volkswagen symbol, the Forrest Gump one, that one's a really hard one for me to put my finger on, because that when that movie came out, I was so young. I can't really say that I have a very vivid memory of exactly whether he said life is a box of chocolates or life was like a box of chocolate, or you know what I'm saying. That one's kind of. But do you understand what I'm saying? The Mandela effect ties into this ideology an awful lot, and I am very not quite convinced, but I'm very sure that I have had the ability to see alternate timelines since I was a little kid, but it's not quite on command. It'll just happen randomly, sporadically, especially here since I got sober. I'm going on a year sober here in the next couple of months. And the latter part of my teens and my entire 20s consisted of lots and lots of drug and alcohol abuse. And I just cleaned all that up. And that numbed it all to where I was able to ignore it for the most part for quite some time. But it's been happening since I was a little kid, and I've never put it into words. Never quite put that into words. And here I'm going to branch off onto something else really quick, and I need to give you just a really, really, really brief little rundown of my background. I was taken away from my real parents when I was 2, and my sister was a baby, and I was raised by my mother's parents, my grandparents, and my mom and dad went off down to North Carolina and left us up in southern Indiana, the southern Indiana, northern Kentucky border right there, a little town called New Albany, Indiana. It's a little city. And they went off and had my brother, and I didn't meet my real mother until I was, I think, 9 or 10. And I didn't meet my father until I was 16. Now, having said that, there's another thing that's been, that I've never really explained to anybody. I have these strange memories. Now, when I say I have memories, I don't mean like, hey, I was just at the store last week, or when I was 10 years old, I remember this happening, you know, from Rich's perspective. I have these memories of things from a very, very different perspective, a very profound, vast perspective that couldn't even fit into a human head, I don't think. But they're just very instantaneous. They're very profound, but very instantaneous, and they come to me in a matter of maybe 2 seconds, and then they go away. And it'll just be different sceneries. And they can get triggered by certain scents, certain, maybe I could look off and see a certain piece of scenery, or maybe like look at a building and the way the light reflects on it in a certain way, and the color of the sky behind it or something like that can trigger a memory of where I saw something similar to that, but from a very expanded perspective. And every time this happens, it sends this strange sensation straight from the crown of my head all the way through my head, down through my throat, straight down to the pit of my stomach. And the sensation can be so extreme that it might make me have to go to the bathroom. Like, it's a very, very physical sensation that it sends straight through my body. And I said that the reason I gave you the little rundown about my childhood was because when I very first met my dad, I started asking him. I was trying to figure out where these memories were coming from. I was about 16. Yeah, I was 16, and I remember asking my dad, did you ever have me in a car seat as a baby driving through downtown Louisville, Kentucky? Because that was just like, I'm from the southern Indiana border to northern Kentucky, to Louisville, Kentucky. So Louisville, Kentucky is like a very big part of where I grew up and where I'm from. But I had this, I still to this day, sometimes this memory of a city, but not like Louisville, Kentucky, not like your average city, but like a dark, indoors, kind of futuristic city, but more the bright lights than anything. And I can remember trying to place these memories and put them together by asking my dad when I first met him, did you ever have me in a car seat at night, like in the middle of the night, driving through downtown Louisville when I was a baby? Because I'm trying to place together where this memory comes from of this, but it's definitely a more profound memory than anything that I could have had when I was a baby. If you understand where I'm coming from on this, it was a very, very profound, like I said, it sends a sensation straight through my body I can't even hardly describe whenever something triggers one of these memories. And it'll just be the most instantaneous little memory. So much so that the moment I try to grab onto it and start analyzing it, it goes away. It's almost the closest thing that I can think to relate it to is, do you know when you wake up in the morning and you're really foggy headed, you just came out of a really big long dream that while you were in the dream made perfect sense. But by the time this conscious brain switches on and starts taking in all this information here, there is no room for that strange world you were just in. Your brain can't process that and this at the same time, so it just kind of kicks that out of the way and you forget about it. And then maybe 10 or 20 minutes later, as you've kind of woke up and gained your senses a little bit, you start trying to think back on the dream. And the harder you try to think about it and put words to it, the more it like slips out of your hands and you can't. It's like, man, that made no sense. There's no words to describe that place I was just in. It made no sense in relation to anything here, in relation to any words I can speak. So like when you try to describe it to somebody, you're like, and you go mute. You can't describe it. Similarly, that's kind of how it is when I have one of these memories. When one of them gets triggered, I'll immediately try to grab onto it and analyze it. And the minute that I do that, it goes away. Like I can't, it's like, you know those little things, it's like a little plastic tube full of water, you know those little toys you could get when you was a kid, you try to squeeze onto it and it shoots out of your hand. It's kind of like that, you know. Now, does that relate to the very first thing that I said in the video? I don't know. As of right now, I can't really put those two in the same box, but they're very similar things. The feeling is almost similar. I know this may have lost a lot of you by now, but I've been struggling for a long time trying to figure out how to explain this and how to put it into words. And here very recently, within the last year, I've been wanting to put this out there and describe it, but something just kept telling me to put it off. I wasn't quite ready to put this out there, but I personally think that it relates a lot to the Mandela effect and different timelines. I personally think that I have, for some strange reason, been able to accidentally glimpse into overlapping timelines, like see into a different dimension, just for a moment, into a different alternate dimension of this right here. Sometimes my mind will click off and I'll see into it. So an alternate reality happening right in front of me. But it's like I've been there before and I know exactly what's going on in it, but I can't sit and the only thing I can say to the people around me is, man, I'm having deja vu. But ever since I was a little bitty kid, that's always been in the back of my mind. Yeah, this is deja vu, but what about the other part? Nobody has ever described the other part. So is that normal? Does anybody else have that? Am I the only one who experiences it that way? Because like I said, I've heard people describe deja vu as being like, okay, I've been here, I've seen this, and I can actually predict what's about to happen next. Like they are actually, the part in their brain that processes linear time actually halts, and they're experiencing the forward arrow of time and the backward arrow of time in this dimension simultaneously, so they're able to see what will happen, and they can pinpoint when somebody's about to walk through the door, what somebody's about to say. For me, it's not quite like that. I see other people who shouldn't even be here. Like, what are these people even doing here? And what does this conversation that they're having have to do with anything? But that part of my mind understands where the conversation came from, because it'll take my perspective and pull it to where I am in that timeline, which will be like, not right here. I was standing over there. And then it'll pull me over to right there, and I'll be watching a couple other people have a conversation, and sometimes I'm even in on it. And I'm pretty convinced that since I was a little kid, my brain will click off somehow, and I will see into overlapping timelines. Now, that's all I really have to say on that right there. If anybody else has any kind of insight or any kind of similar experiences, I'm definitely open to it. Definitely open to it. Naya, Yvonne, especially if you're watching this, I would love to hear your input on that. I know you've had a lot going on right now, traveling and whatnot, but I would love to hear your input on that. But anyways, I know it's been a while since I made a video. We just moved into this new place here, and it's been a pain in the butt getting internet into this place, and we finally got it all set up, and now I'm definitely going to be back to at least one video a week. I know you guys have been blowing me up, asking for more, like on the Aquarius videos, and I definitely have a couple more Aquarius videos in mind. But I definitely wanted to put this video out there. This is a video I've been putting off for about a year. I've really been contemplating how I'm going to word this. So anyways, that's all I have for this video, guys. I appreciate you tuning in on it. Like I said, any insight or similar experiences shared, put them down in the comment section and let me know. I'm out of here. Have fun.